Continuing with Deuteronomy 32.44. And Moshe came and spoke all the words of this poem in the ears of the people, he and Hoshea, the son of Nun. And Moshe made an end of speaking all these words to all Israel. And he said to them, set your hearts to all the words which I testify you among you this day, which you shall command your children to observe to do, all the words of this Torah. For it is not a vain thing for you, because it is your life, and through this word you shall prolong your days in the land into which you go over the Jordan to possess it. And the Lord spoke to Moshe that same day, saying, go up into this Mount Avarim, to Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, that is facing Jericho, and behold the land of Canaan, which I give to the children of Israel for a possession, and die in the mount into which thou goest up, and be gathered to thy people, as Aaron thy brother died in Mount Hor, and was gathered to his people, because you transgressed against me among the children of Israel at the waters of Meribah Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin, because you sanctified me not in the midst of the children of Israel. Yet thou shalt see the land before thee, but thou shalt not go there into the land which I give to the children of Israel. And this is the blessing with which Moshe, the man of God, blessed the children of Israel before his death. And he said, the Lord came from Sinai and rose up from Seir to them. He shone forth from Mount Paran, and he came from holy multitudes. From his right hand went a fiery law for them. Truly he loves the peoples. All his holy ones are in thy hand, and they sat down at thy feet. Every one shall receive of thy words. Moshe commanded us a Torah, the inheritance of the congregation of Yaakov, and he was king in Yeshurun, when the heads of the people and the tribes of Israel were gathered together. Let Reuben live and not die, and let not his men be few. And this is the blessing of Yehuda. And he said, hear, Lord, the voice of Yehuda, and bring him to his people. Let his hands be sufficient for him, and be thou a help to him from his enemies. And of Levi he said, let thy Tumim and thy Urim be with thy pious one, whom thou didst prove at Massah, and with whom thou didst strive at the waters of Meribah, who said of his father and of his mother, I have not seen him, nor did he acknowledge his brothers, nor knew his own children. For they have observed thy word, and kept thy covenant. They shall teach Yaakov thy judgments, and Yisrael thy Torah. They shall put incense before thee, and the whole burnt sacrifice upon thy altar. Bless, Lord, his substance, and accept the work of his hands, and smite through the loins those who rise up against him, and those who hate him, that they rise not again. And of Benjamin he said, the beloved of the Lord, he shall dwell in safety by him. He shall cover him all the day long, and he shall dwell between his shoulders. And of Joseph he said, blessed of the Lord be his land for the precious things of heaven, for the dew, and for the deep that couches beneath, and for the precious fruits brought forth by the sun, and for the precious things put forth by the moon, and for the chief things of the ancient mountains, and for the precious things of the primordial hills, and for the precious things of the earth and its fullness, and for the good will of him that dwelt in the bush. Let the blessing come upon the head of Joseph, and upon the top of the head of him who is separated from his brothers. The firstling of his herd, grandeur is his, and his horns are like the horns of a wild ox. With them he shall push the peoples all together to the ends of the earth, and they are the 10,000s of Ephraim, of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. And of Zebulun he said, Rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents. And they shall call the peoples to the mountain, and there they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness. For they shall suck the abundance of the seas, and of treasures hid in the sand. And of Gad he said, Blessed is he that enlarges Gad. He dwells as a lion, and tears the arm with the crown of the head. And he provided the first part for himself, because there the portions of the law of a lawgiver was reserved. And he came with the heads of the people. He executed the justice of the Lord, and his judgments with Israel. And of Dan he said, Dan is a lion's whelp that leaps from Bashan. And of Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessings of the Lord, possess thou the west and the south. And of Asher he said, Be Asher blessed above sons. Let him be acceptable to his brethren, and let him dip his foot in oil. Thy shoes shall be iron and brass. As thy days, so shall thy strength be. There is none like to the God of Yeshurun, who rides upon the heaven to thy help, and in his excellency on the clouds. The eternal God is a dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms. And he shall thrust out the enemy from before thee, and shall say, Destroy them. Yisrael then shall dwell in safety alone. The fountain of Yaakov shall dwell upon a land of corn and wine. Also his heavens shall drop down dew. Happy art thou, O Yisrael, who is like to thee, O people saved by the Lord, the shield of thy help, and one that is the sword of thy excellency. And thy enemies shall submit themselves to thee, and that shall tread upon their high places. And Moshe went up from the plains of Moab to the mountains of Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, facing Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead to Dan, and all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim, and Manasseh, and all the land of Yehudah, as far as the utmost sea, and the Negev, and the plain, the valley of Jericho, city of the palm trees, as far as Zohar. And the Lord said to him, This is the land which I swore to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Jacob, saying, I will give it to thy seed. I've caused thee to see it with thy eyes, but thou shalt not go over there. So Moshe the servant of the Lord died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord, and he buried him in the valley of the land of Moab, over against Bet Peor. But no man knows his grave to this day. And Moshe was 120 years old when he died, and his eyes was not dim, nor his natural force abated. And the children of Israel wept for Moshe in the plains of Moab 30 days. And the days of weeping and mourning for Moshe were ended. And Yehoshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moshe had laid his hands upon him. And the children of Israel hearkened to him, and did as the Lord commanded Moshe. And there arose not a prophet since in Israel like Moshe, whom the Lord knew face to face, and all the signs and wonders which the Lord sent him to do in the land of Mitzrayim, to Pharaoh, and to all his servants, and to all his land, and all the mighty hand, and in the great terror which Moshe performed in the sight of all Israel. That's Deuteronomy 34:12.